Good morning and welcome to Michael and Luca's excellent adventure. It has been a while since we have spoken and been here because of all of the weather and everything that is going on. Unfortunately, my friend Andrew will not be able to make it here today, but we are thinking about you. A lot has happened within the past few weeks. Um, second snowstorm in a month, got 2 feet of snow. They had to cancel classes. Then we had a delayed opening. Everything got delayed. Um, Luca, what was your thoughts on the snow?
Yeah, no, I think the snow's been very crazy. It really has been a wild 2 weeks. As you said, with the 2 feet of snow, and exact the same sort of thing. A lot of canceling classes, the delayed opening. It's definitely been very crazy for sure.
It has certainly been crazy for sure. And the fact that we had the anticipation for the snowstorm in January and we didn't have school. We had a 3-day weekend. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had a 4-day weekend and then a delayed opening. Things got very, very delayed. But did you find the snow? Were you bothered by the snow?
I mean, yeah, I would say it kind of was. I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of snow, but at the same time, I was able to make do with, hanging in the dorm and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I had to kind of get used to a new system. And then by the time I went into the library a few days after the snowstorm, I was used to just being in the dorm in the morning for the few days. But, I'm glad. Are you glad that the snow's over?
Yes, I'm very happy it's over and that it's back to being all normal again, and it's yeah, back to reality. I'm very happy it's over.
I'm very happy it's over as well. As a matter of fact, the snowstorm that we got in January, it took a while for that snow to melt. And as soon as the snowstorm from January melted, we had more snow that happened. So it was crazy. But Iona basketball did very well last Friday night against Ryder. And they also did fantastic on Sunday. And they will be playing in the MAC tournament on Thursday against Sacred Heart. Correct, Luca?
Yes, that is
They will
correct.
be playing on Thursday for the MAC tournament, and the way they played last Friday and the way they played on Sunday, they're giving me a lot of confidence. And this team has a lot of confidence. They play together, they play as a team, and their defensive consistency has really really picked up, and they've been rebounding. And I like what I'm seeing out of them. Um, Luca, what are your thoughts on how they did this season?
Yes, I agree with what you said. They've had a great season. They've been doing great with scoring, great with defense. What's his name? CJ Anthony he's been playing great this season. I Akamatsu as well. He's been great. All around the team, they've really just been playing great, and they've had like a lot of great team chemistry.
Without question. And going into this season, I said to myself, this is a completely different team. There was like no only like one returning player from last year returned this season. So it was a completely different team, new head coach, and it was all new. And I have to say that they did a very good job. And I have to say there was a lot of close games this year, and a lot of the games came down to the wire. What was your favorite game this season?
Well, definitely a game that's up there for me is when they had beat Merrimack, and it was at the buzzer.
That was a great win when Toby Harris hit the buzzer beater. That was an incredible game. And there was another me and my dad came up for the game against Princeton about a week before Thanksgiving, and Iona dominated in that game. That was a great game. Me and my dad also went to the Iona St. John's game. St. John's was just better than Iona that game, but it was a great experience going there. And there were some other great games that they played in. Sunday was a great game, and I think they played against Siena a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and I like the way they play. They definitely play as a team. They stay within themselves, and I think if they stay within themselves and they keep moving forward and play as a team, I think they're going to go far in the MAC tournament. And I have a lot of I have a lot of confidence in them. Do you, Luca?
Yes, they do. I have great confidence as long as they, keep up the great offense and great scoring and the great defense and they maintain, that great team chemistry. Yes, I think that they could beat almost anyone in the MAC tournament.
Without question. And I feel like the March Madness tournament is coming up. I feel like in March, the reason why they call it March Madness is because madness happens and any team could win in March Madness and any team could really win in the MAC tournament. It's anybody's game. And basically, like going into the tournament, like a lot of teams are dominant and a lot of people predict who's going to win, but literally anything could happen, and that any team that makes it is good enough to win it. And usually the teams are very even, so it's probably going to be very, very uh it's gonna be very, very even and very equal. And I feel that same way going into the MAC tournament. That if Iona really plays hard and does their thing and stays within each other, I really do think that they have a very good chance of going far. Do you agree, Luca?
Yes, I do agree. As long as they keep it together and they do, everything pretty much that you mentioned, yeah, no, they will definitely make it far for sure.
And on Saturday, I met my brother Timmy in the city, and we went to the St. John's Villanova game at the Garden. And my favorite coach, Rick Pitino, did a tremendous job coaching on Saturday night. And St. John's won by a lot. And last Wednesday, St. John's played against UConn at UConn, and UConn absolutely dominated St. John's. And St. John's lost by a lot, so they were probably coming back for revenge Saturday night. And I have to say, both teams were very good. Both teams are having a great year, but St. John's played a lot better and dominated. But I had great seats at the Garden, and Rick Pitino wore the white suit. And he has done a tremendous job. And as a matter of fact, both Rick Pitino and Kevin Willard, the head coach at Villanova, coached at Iona. Rick Pitino coached at Iona from about 2021 to 2023, and he's been at St. John's now for 3 seasons, and he coached at Iona. And Kevin Willard, the head coach at Villanova, the head coach at Villanova now, he coached at Iona, and he did a tremendous job here. So we got two. I went and both coaches that were coaching against each other both coached at Iona, so it felt very good. But now we're going to shift over to a topic that we love talking about: movies and movie series. And I was thinking about this yesterday, that there's a lot of movie series that I enjoy, and I can't really think of my all-time like I can think of definitely my all-time favorites, but it's hard to put like which series I like better because they're all very good. Luca, what is your favorite movie series? When you think of movie series, which ones are your favorite?
Uh, Definitely some movie series I would say that are my favorite. Back to the Future and the Rocky series are two of them.
I love the Rocky movies. That is probably my favorite franchise ever. Those are movies that I found connections with the characters. I love the stories in each movie. I could quote each movie. Like if you had any of the Rocky movies on, uh, if I walked in on like any part, I would know the line in like every scene. I could watch them over and over again and not get sick of them. You root for Rocky in each movie. I love the storyline, and like you really want to know what happens. And Rocky was such a likable character. And though that is a series that I have always loved, and those movies really are the best. And the original Rocky came out in 1976, and as a matter of fact, this is the 50th anniversary of Rocky. The original Rocky came out 50 years ago. And it, it's still to this day is my favorite franchise. I have so many memories watching it with my dad. We have a bond with those movies, and the lines in those movies are fantastic. Um, Now, Luca, if you had to pick, which one was your favorite out of the Rocky movies?
Well, honestly, I would honestly say, they're all great movies, but if I had to pick, I definitely liked Rocky 2, when Rocky beats Apollo.
Without question, I loved Rocky 2. And to be honest, I loved all of them equally with a passion. But if I had to choose which one was the best, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 were the best. And I actually can't choose which one I like better, Rocky 1 or Rocky 2, because they're both so great. And I love in Rocky 2 when it picks up right where I left off in Rocky 1. Like the story literally picked up exactly where it left off in 1. And I like how it goes from there. And I'll tell you one thing, Rocky was one tough guy. He was the type of guy that went into the ring and he had the mentality of I'm never going to give up, even though sometimes the odds are against me and it's going to be hard. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm going to do what I have to do. And he was usually the guy in the ring that just was the one who took the beating and just kept, you know, kept taking a beating, beating after beating, but he just kept going. And that's why I can relate to those movies and I can have a connection with them because when things are going rough, I just think of Rocky. He just keeps going and he just keeps his head up and keeps moving forward. Now we were talking about this yesterday out of the Rocky movie series. Rocky fought a lot of fighters in all the movies. Um in the original Rocky, Rocky 1, Rocky fought Apollo at the end of the movie on New Year's Day. And he had a rematch with Apollo in Rocky 2. Which fight do you think Rocky took more of a beating in? His first fight against Apollo or the second fight against Apollo?
I would probably have to say that he took more of a beating in his second fight against Apollo because even though because he beat Apollo in the second fight and like but he also didn't beat him like easily either. Like he took like a fairly good beating from Apollo and he really stood in there for a while before he was ultimately able to win.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, in Rocky 3, at the end of Rocky 3, after Rocky beat Clubber Lang in the second fight, and after Apollo trained him, Apollo and Rocky, this was a great part in the movie. Apollo and Rocky had like a closed arena fight, and Apollo Creed said to Rocky, "Now look, Stallion, when you and I were at that last fight, you beat me by 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. That's very hard for a man of my intelligence to handle." So literally, Rocky won by the skin of his teeth, and I feel like Rocky took a beating in both fights, both in Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. And I feel like in Rocky 1, he was taking a beating, but he came back. He was able to come back a little bit easier than he did in Rocky 2. Rocky 2, at the end of going into Rocky 2, in Rocky 2, Apollo was very determined and he was very mad at himself that he that Rocky had such a good fight with him. And Apollo going into Rocky 1 probably thought that he would easily be able to be Rocky, but Rocky kept going and he went the distance and he never gave up. But in Rocky 2, Apollo was definitely more hungry. He was definitely more eager to win and he was definitely more angry. And then throughout the fight, Apollo, kept going after Rocky and he couldn't let what happened in Rocky 1 go. And one of my favorite scenes in Rocky 2 was when Apollo was talking to his trainer, and Apollo's trainer was a great character in the movies. Apollo's trainer says to um, Apollo says to his trainer, "Look, I don't know about anybody else, but as long as I'm going to be promoting this fight myself, I want a lot more pressure put on for a rematch." And Apollo's trainer said, "Hey, we can get the same money for two top contenders. Why go after Balboa? Why?" And Apollo said, "Truth." And he's like, "Why go after Balboa? Why?" And Apollo's like, "Because there's still a lot of people out there that think he won. There's a lot of people out there accusing me having the fight fixed, accusing me of being a fake, and insulting my kids at school. That's why. That's why." And Apollo's trainer said, "You want to hear the truth? The truth is that last time he was lucky. Now he's all finished. I mean, he's been hanging around doing nothing for 6 months. and any trainer worth anything wouldn't have nothing to do with it. Now I say, let's go after some new meat. Forget him. And Apollo's like, you think I beat him the last time? Do you? And the trainer said, you got the decision. And Apollo's like, man, I won, but I didn't beat him. That line really stuck with me in Rocky 2 because that's how close it was of a fight in Rocky 1. And I love the line what Apollo's trainer said to Apollo. Apollo said to his trainer, what are you afraid of, Tony? And the trainer said, honest. And Apollo's like, yeah, honest. And the trainer goes up to Apollo and he's like, he's all wrong for us. I saw you beat that man like I never saw no man get beat before. And the man kept coming after you. Now, we don't need that kind of man in our life. I know what you're feeling. Let it go. Let it go. You're the champ. I felt like the line, the man kept coming after you. That line really described and it really summed up Rocky's toughness and Rocky's heart in the first fight and how the odds were probably against him in the first fight. But even though he was constantly getting punched and taking a beating, he never gave up and he just kept coming back and coming back. And another scene that I think about was the scene in Rocky 3 after they honor Rocky with the statue and Clubber Lang shows up and challenges Rocky to a fight, but Mickey left this statue ceremony because he didn't want to be involved with he didn't want to be involved in the fighting world anymore. He wanted to move on. And Rocky went back to his house and Rocky said to Mickey, why'd you leave? Why'd you walk away like that? Mickey's like, life's too short, kid. And then Rocky's like, why are you doing this? And then Rocky said, why'd you do it? And then Mickey's like, because the beating that you got from Apollo, it should have ended you, kid. And then Mickey's like, it didn't. It was my job to keep you winning and to keep you healthy. That line, the fact that Apollo's trainer said to Apollo in Rocky 2, the man kept coming after you, that really summed up and described Rocky's toughness. And I feel like in Rocky 3, because the beating that you got, he took another beating. That just shows Rocky's toughness. Now, we were talking about last night, who do you think was a tougher fighter, Rocky or Apollo? Who do you think was tougher, Luca?
Yes, I would have to say that. I'd have to say that probably Rocky was a tougher fighter, and in the sense because Rocky he really took like a lot of beatings in all of his fights, and he really like just got beat up so much, and like you could really like feel for him, but it's really great though the fact that he was always able to just like be brave, have perseverance, like stand in there, never give up, never back out, and yeah, and ultimately things would go his way.
Yeah, I honestly think who do I think is a better fighter, Rocky or Apollo? I definitely agree with you. I definitely think Rocky was definitely a tougher fighter. Rocky had more heart than Apollo. Rocky never gave up, and Rocky was definitely the tougher fighter. I feel like Rocky was the guy who went into the ring and basically said to himself, "I have nothing to lose. I'm going to take this fight with all my heart, and I'm never going to give up. And I'm just going to, if I take a beating, I'm going to take a beating, but I'm going to take it like a man. And then I'm going to just keep going after him." And the line in Rocky 4, when Rocky said to his son, there's times where I'm in the ring that, to be honest, I do get a little scared. There's times where I'm in the ring and this guy is wailing on me. And I just feel like, God, I wish this guy would just hit me on the chin so I wouldn't have to feel anything anymore. But then there's another side that comes out that wants to take more, wants to go the one more round because going the one more round when you don't think you can, it makes all the difference in your life. And that line really stuck with me because that was really Rocky's mentality in life. He always got into the ring. He always tried his best, and he was usually the one taking a beating, and he was the one who would usually come back, but he was always the one taking the beating. And I felt like in all of the fights that Rocky fought, I felt like the one that he took the most beating, it was either his rematch with Apollo in Rocky 2 or Rocky's fight against a Russian. But also, he took a beating in Rocky 3 and he took a beating in Rocky 1. So all of them was very tough. What do you think, Luca?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all of his fights were very tough. None of them were really like very easy for him per se. And yes, he definitely did take a beating in his rematch where he beat Apollo in Rocky 2, and definitely when he fought Drago in Rocky 4, because Drago had the advantage of steroids and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, he definitely took a lot of beatings, but it was good that he was able to stay in there.
Without question. And yeah, and I was also thinking about this, that in Rocky 3, in Rocky's rematch against Clubber Lang, um, Rocky, only that fight wasn't 15 rounds. In Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky 4, Rocky's fight at the end, it was 15 rounds. In Rocky 3, in his rematch against Clubber Lang, it was in 3 rounds. And I feel like Clubber Lang definitely gave Rocky a vicious beating in the second fight, even though Rocky came back and won. That was definitely a beating. And I feel like if that fight went 15 rounds, and let's say he took a beating from Clubber Lang in each round for 15 rounds, like the one when he fought against Apollo and the Russian, I felt like the Clubber Lang fight might have been the worst beating, because he absolutely took a vicious beating. What do you think, Luca?
Yeah, no, I think that yeah, I agree with what you said where for the Clubber Lang fight, like yeah, if it was 15 rounds, it would have been I think he still would have had a chance of winning, but it would have been different in the sense of, there would have been like more rounds and he would have probably could have taken even more of a beating than he had originally.
Correct. And Rocky was just a guy that never gave up. And out of all the training montages in Rocky, which one was your favorite?
Uh, I would definitely say one that's up there for me is definitely in 4 when he was training at Rush. I definitely liked that one a lot, and I thought that one was very cool.
Without question, that training montage was awesome when he's training in the snow and he, is working out in the house. That was awesome. And I remember watching Rocky 4 for the first time with my mom, and I remember in the training montage, my mother said the Russian is using steroids and he's using these machines, but Rocky's using his heart. And I remember watching Rocky 4 with my dad when I was in 5th grade, and my dad's like, "Well, Rocky gets up first thing in the morning. He trains for like 7, 8 hours a day. Then he goes back to the house and takes a nap for 2 to 3 hours, and then he goes back and does it for another 4 to 5 hours. But you have to be in tip-top shape in order to do that." And those movies are fantastic. Um, Now, the Back to the Future series. What was your favorite part of the Back to the Future series, Luca?
Well, definitely, I would say my favorite movie was definitely the first movie by far. I think that movie had a lot of great scenes. Two of them being when Marty meets Doc in the Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 in the morning, and also I also really liked the 1.21 gigawatt scene.
Yes, and out of all 3 of the Back to the Future movies, to me, by far, hands down, the first one was definitely the best one. And I love the scene in Back to the Future 1 when George goes into the cafe when it's busy and he looks at the cashier and he's like, um, "Give me a milk, chocolate." I love that part. And the Twins Mall was great. And I like the scene when Marty goes back and sees his parents in high school, and the Earth Angel and the Johnny Be Good song was awesome. I love that part. And when Marty's playing the guitar, and I love when Marty says to his parents after the dance, he says to his parents, "Oh, and another one other thing. If one day you guys have kids, and if one of them, when he's 8 years old, accidentally sets fire to the living room rug, go easy on him." That part was great. And when he walks into the cafe at the beginning and he sees his dad, and he's like, "You're George McFly." That part was great. Um, and did you think Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 were entertaining?
Uh, yes, I do think they were entertaining, and I do definitely think that they did have some very good scenes, but I wouldn't say that they were as good as the first one,
Yeah,
though.
I didn't think any of them lived up to the original. And I love the scene in the original Back to the Future when Marty's outside of Doc's house and he says to him, um, Doc, you told me the whole story. You were standing on your head and you fell, and that gave you the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible. And he says, and what he said to Doc in the storm, he's like, that is just a risk you're going to have to take. And that part I love. And we were also talking about another great movie series with Sylvester Stallone. Did you ever see, you liked the First Blood movies, right?
Oh yes, Rambo. I thought those were all great movies.
Yes, I saw the first time I watched Rambo: The First Blood, the first movie was with my dad when I was a freshman in high school, and it was an excellent movie, great action movie. And me and Luca, we watched First Blood Part 2 last year, and I thought it was just as good as one. Definitely some intense parts, but I definitely enjoyed it. And a great documentary that I watched on Netflix a couple of weeks ago was about Sylvester Stallone and his life and how he got into acting. And as a matter of fact, he wrote Rocky, and I think he wrote Rock. It was based on his life and about a guy who was kind of like mistreated in his life, and then about a guy who like became a fighter. And he actually, as a matter of fact, like a lot of the original Rocky is based on Sylvester Stallone's life, and talked about how he got into acting, about about his brother, and as a matter of fact, his brother is actually in Rocky One. He's a singer. We see him sing in a scene, and I believe his dad is the guy who rings the bell for the first fight between him and Apollo, and First Blood was a classic, and I love the scene in First Blood when Sylvester Stallone takes out all the guards and he escapes the police station, and he gets on the motorcycle, and the Brian Denny, the police officer, he chases him. That part's awesome. What do you think of that part, Luca?
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's a great part, and it is a very cool part. And I think that Brian Denny was great too in that movie. He certainly played a great sheriff.
Brian Denny did a tremendous job in that movie, and I love the scene in First Blood when he says to the guy, like, because when Sylvester Stallone goes into the woods and tries to get away from all the police officers, I love the scene when Brian Denny says to the police officers, "Come on, guys, he's one man," and he's like, "Please do what I tell you to do. Get that chopper back here." And I love this the opening scene of First Blood when Sylvester Stallone is walking on the street, and Brian Denny says to him, wearing that jacket, the way you do. And then he puts him in the car, and then Brian Denny says to Stallone in the car, um, some may say this town is boring, but I get paid to keep it that way. Um, and it was a great job talking with you today, Luca. I look forward to having more conversations with you, and we'll see you next week from Michael and Luca's Excellent Adventure. Thank you.
Yep, next week, everyone.